I'm James Gunn, writer and director of Superman.
I'm Nicholas Holt.
And this is Freeze Frame for British Esquire. You're not Nicholas Holt.
Yes, I am.
Nicholas Holt's a very handsome man.
Damn.
He's a very tall, handsome man.
Damn. And I'm David Corenswet.
What is this? Crypto! What the hey, dude? I thought you destroyed the whole Superman robots. I thought I told you to keep an eye on him.
We feed the canine, but he is unruly. And he realizes we are not flesh and blood and couldn't, in our heart of hearts, care less whether he lives or dies.
Stop, Crypto. Leave it. Ow. Ow. Stop. Ow. Stop. Crypto. Ow. Ow. Stop it. Stop. Sit. Sit. Stay.
Dozens of fittings leading up to shooting, and then while we were shooting as well, the suit sort of stretched out over time, and we had multiple suits that had to be brought in for various levels.
It kept getting baggier.
Yeah,
it was like,
because it's like so perfectly fitted, and then as soon as I go through a day of fighting and flying, and the harnesses I wear underneath it that get hooked up to the wires, it all just stretches it out. But it was the first time putting it on was pretty cool. It was sort of this feeling of, you sort of expect the Superman suit to be this iconic thing that you step into, but our suit was, I think, different enough that I felt a little bit like I was stepping into something that would hopefully become iconic. It wasn't quite iconic yet, which helped me because it felt a little more like it was on my level, because I was also not iconic. Definitively. James kept saying that to me. Just remember.
you're not iconic.
You're not iconic.
You're the opposite of an icon. You're a Nikon. A no-con.
But the day on the camera test where I finally got, you had been in some of the fittings, we had some conversations, trunks or no trunks and whatnot. But the first day coming out onto the sound stage where everybody got to see me in the suit and we were sort of presenting it to James, that was very exciting, and it felt like it was going to work once we put it on camera.
Yeah, there were so many designs of the suit that, I mean, just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of designs. It was probably the most challenging aspect of the whole movie, because I did want it to be its own thing. And when you do something that it's its own thing around somebody as iconic as Superman, everybody has their ideas about what Superman is supposed to be. And that means every aspect, from the curl and the hair, through the shorts, through the whatever. And no matter what thing you include or don't include, you're creating a whole other group of people who hate what you've done. So it really was, for us, trying to find the center of what actually looked great, and knowing that sometimes people react to things in a way that they're not used to.
Well, and this is something I really appreciated about you and how your process in doing it. The conversation was very rarely, if ever, about what people would think. I know you had that in mind, but when we were talking about the costume, the conversation was always about, why is it this way? What story does this tell about Superman? Why does he have the suit the way that it is? And that is good, because that means that even though inevitably people are going to take some time to get used to the new things about the suit, and it's been really fun hearing about people who really didn't like it to begin with and who now are kind of, excited about it and feeling, is that you want to make the decisions based on firmer ground than just what people will think, because what people think will evolve as they see it more and as they see it in action in the film. And the iconic suit was not iconic when it first came out. It became iconic through the stories that were told and the images that came out about it. So I appreciated that guiding light being story driven and character
it's always, I mean, everything started with, what if Superman was real? If Superman was real, what would his outfit be? If Superman was real, what would his flaws be? If Superman was real, what would his relationship with Lois be like? If Lex Luthor was real, why would he hate Superman and want to take him down? It always comes from that elemental place of, what if it was real?
I got a call that I was on the list to make a self-tape for the role. How many people self-taped, do you think?
300.
Really? Wow.
Maybe more.
Yeah.
I saw a couple, at least 200,
That's
but
amazing.
he filters them down for me.
Right.
I'm the one who asked you to audition.
So I didn't know that. I was just told that lots of people were auditioning, and I was sort of like, don't get your hopes up. This isn't like, you're not special.
Yeah, I told Pap Sedera, the
Casting
guy,
director, yeah.
the casting guy, the casting director. I told him that I had seen you in Pearl, and I was like, oh, this guy kind of looks like he could be Superman. He's a little skinny, but he could be Superman. And I said, check out this David Corenswet guy.
Yeah, Corenswaggle. Yeah,
Corenswet.
And then so I made myself tape with my wife. And also wrote a letter, which is not something I usually do. And then I sent that off and forgot about it, as you tend to do as an actor. And then got told that I was going to screen test for it with only 2 other actors, which was also very surprising. I was assuming it was going to be several rounds and another self-tape with some notes. And so then the screen test, I met Nick at the screen test, and Rachel and I read together just once in a very busy weekend of various pairings and stunt evaluations and costume tests and whatnot.
What happened was we did the auditions with 3 Lexes and 3 Clarks and 3 Loises. We mixed and matched, but you had already done it a million times with another actor, and Rachel had already done it a million times with Nick.
Yeah.
And so when I put you 2 together, it was just to see what your chemistry was like.
Right. And then about 2 weeks later, got a call from James telling me that I had gotten the role. Do you remember the beginning of that phone call? I've told the story.
You thought, you didn't believe it was me. You said, can I said, it's James Gunn. You said, can you prove that? I'm like, I'm going to call Nick Holton over from Superman. Well, listen, I love the character Superman, and I love Superman in the comics and the whole Daily Planet gang and all the different various superheroes. So I'm really just trying to find the actor that can fit those roles the best. I think something that people often think is like the best actor gets the job, but it's not true. It's the best person for the role gets the job, because Nick is a way
better actor,
way better actor than David. But he fit another role better. But yeah, I really think that I just was looking for a somebody who could, really fill a character like a glove. And obviously that was true with David, but also Lois and, all the other actors. So, well, there's a personal reason for why Superman now, and I think a cultural reason for why Superman now. Personal reason is I was offered Superman in 2018. I said no. And I always wondered if that was a mistake. And I was constantly trying to say, I was daunted by the task at the time. I wasn't sure I could do it. And so I kind of played this, mind exercise for the next 5 years, trying to figure out how would I do Superman if I could do him? What would I do? What would I do? And I finally, came up with how I would approach it. That's when I took on the job. So that's the real reason, because when I decided to do it. But I think culturally, I think the world is in a place where there's obviously a lot of turmoil, a lot of people confused about what's going on in both the world and the media. And I think that somebody as hopeful as Superman is something people are thirsty for. So I think that it's like an oasis in the desert. And so much pop culture is ironic or mean or whatever. And Superman is not that. He's earnest. And that's okay. That's what makes him go against the grain of everything else in the world today.
Just flew into Midtown and started attacking people, demanding for Superman to show up.
Yeah, it's all there in my article.
And I'd actually have to make it through your writing, Clark. Knowledge is worth many sacrifices. That isn't one of them.
Very funny, Lois.
Oh my God, it's so funny.
22 people in the hospital, over 20 million in property damage. It does make you wonder.
Wonder what?
As great as he is, maybe Superman didn't completely think through the ramifications of the Bravia thing.
Well, if this guy is even from Bravia.
What do you mean? His name is the Hammer of Bravia.
Yeah, I doubt his parents named him that, Jimmy. We have no clue what his actual goal was here.
I think it's pretty obvious the goal was kicking Superman's ass.
He didn't completely kick Superman's ass.
Pretty thoroughly, Clark.
Well, so do you know why I raised my finger there?
Because you're about to say something.
But do you know what I'm about to say?
No.
So I think you wrote this scene really brilliantly. Somebody said that that the Hammer might have been faking a Baravian accent.
Yeah.
And what I love about so in the scene where Clark is overhearing them talk about him being Baravian, and is he really from Baravia? And he's called the Hammer of Baravia. That's when I first have the idea of like, I heard this thing about faking an accent.
Yeah.
that then gets lost in the shuffle of criticizing Superman, but then comes back later. It's just a little thing that
I never knew it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's every take I would raise my finger in that moment, like I was going to say that, and then it gets lost. And it was just a fun thing about your writing and your directing style, where a lot of the scenes are very linear, in that sort of one thing leads to another, but because they are layered, there are all these opportunities as an actor to make connections that maybe you hadn't even made yourself, but that were in there, and it just gave all these little flavors to scenes like that, especially the scenes with a big group and with somebody as funny as Skylar, who was playing around with a lot of, humor and improv, if not dialogue improv, behavioral improv. That was a thing I really loved about that.
Yeah. I remember making Jimmy reel. I'm like, no, wheel up, because he was like sitting back, and everybody was totally still. But I always like when people move, so he wheeled up, and then he wheeled up, and the cameras get to move. But the other thing I like about that is just that moment with the women looking at Jimmy, and he's so hot, and he's so over it. He doesn't like. He's every time a woman talks about how hot he is, he's like, okay, yeah, I know. I'm like, yeah, that's what I get everywhere. He's really Pete Davidson, that's who I think of Jimmy as, is my friend Pete. Well, we both hated working with Rachel because she's a monster. And she belittled us every day on set, and was constantly mocking us and doing really mean imitations of both of us.
I thought that was just you.
Oh yeah, it probably is just me. No, we love Rachel. Was like, listen, I was a big Mrs. Maisel fan, so I've known Amy Sherman Palladino, who created Ms. Maisel, for a while, and during COVID, I was in a really, it was after I was fired. After I was fired, I was in a really bad space, and I started watching Ms. Maisel, and I wrote Amy probably the only fan letter I've written as an adult, which she supposedly keeps in her desk.
Oh.
And so when she found out that I was, and I've never talked about this, when she found out that I was auditioning Rachel as Lois Lane, she wrote me the longest, most glowing email of all time with how much she loved working with Rachel, and how that I would never in a million years regret hiring her, because she's so good, she's so funny, she's so smart. And it was true, because she was perfect Lois.
There are I'm sure a lot of actresses who have lots of those qualities. One thing that Rachel has that I've never experienced to this level with an actress, with a scene partner, is her stamina. Just like, she can be all those things constantly, scene after scene, hour after hour, and I never found her to like lose energy or waver or get stale. She just she has this amazing indefatigable focus and drive as an actress and a scene partner.
Something about you and Rachel and Nick that I appreciate is that as a director, sometimes I feel bad putting an actor through, having to do something again and again and again and again and again until we get it right. And you guys were all unstoppable in that way. In fact, oftentimes I would stop, and you or Rachel would be like, "Oh, can we try one more?" And I'm always like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Yeah.
Because it was great, because not every actor is like that. They should be, though, but they aren't.
Mm-hmm.
Get out of here!
Well, we shot that sequence would have been parts in Cleveland and parts on a soundstage in Atlanta.
Basically, anything in the sky was shot on a soundstage, and anything on the ground was shot in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And right in Times Square, right next to Terminal Tower, which is seen in that scene, which is the place where Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster first imagined Superman jumping over a tall building. And
That was the tall building.
That was the tall building, which was just cool. And we didn't get it because of that. I found it out afterwards from Jerry Siegel's grandchildren.
Catching the Kaiju's foot and then blowing the dog over was strange. We had two guys holding a big platform that they were kind of, initially the idea was they were lifting it up. Then I had to keep asking them to pull down on it so that I actually had some weight.
Yeah.
It kept kind of bouncing off my hands. And I thought like, well, yeah, it's got to be,
Superman's
got to be strong, but you got to feel the weight.
Yeah,
of the
I
thing.
remember they kept holding back, and they kept being like, no, you got to push harder.
Yeah.
And also that little dog, Trudy, was adopted. She was up for adoption. That was a rescue. And she was adopted by Beth Mickles, our production designer's mother. So Trudy now is the pride and joy of Beth Mickles' mom, and she has a very happy life.
I'm sure, yeah. And Henry, the understudy dog, was adopted by Roger, my driver. So.
Yeah, we had another dog in case Trudy didn't work out.
Yeah. And
I gotta say, Henry was my favorite.
Yeah, he was.
If
awesome.
your driver didn't take Henry, I was pretty sure Henry was coming home with me. And I got to see Henry, because I saw your driver on.
When we did the pickups, or just as.
No, it was like in Atlanta. I was there for something, and you weren't around, but he was there, and I went. I don't know why I was there, but anyway, I got to drive around and see Henry,
Cool.
and boy, I love that dog.
Yeah,
that has nothing to do with any of this. It wasn't like I was saying, oh, let's make a story that's like our world. I was saying, again, what if Superman was real? What are the challenges he would face? And so obviously there's a lot of things in the world of the DCU that are like things in the world today in reality. In fact, a few things that are more like the world today than when we made the movie 2 years ago. But it really was all from a storytelling perspective of what would Superman, what would his relationship with the government be like? And what, if there was going to be a war, he's going to stop it. Like, that's just who Superman is. He's not going to let a single person perish under his watch. And so that just all led naturally to the story of Superman, which at the end of the day is about Superman's personal crisis. It's about Superman learning some things about himself that he didn't know and dealing with that information. It is a crisis for him, and then trying to recontextualize who he is with that new information. So, yeah.
Bye. Thanks for watching. This has been Freeze Frame for British Esquire.
Goodbye.